Hi, I'm Danny McCarnes. I worked at Agnews from 1977 to 1991, and I was a psych tech there, and I'd always wanted to work with people that had developmental disabilities since I was 14. So coming to Agnews was a real privilege for me. Agnews was a pretty special place. We did some pretty special things, and it's not that there were the big stories is what I think people should be thinking about and remembering, but instead thinking about how Agnews changed a lot of people. The concept of love and the concept of success and beauty. You know, that when you look at somebody and some people wouldn't think they were very attractive, but just their smile or their way of looking back at you really made an impression on you. The times that we spent with individuals and how they became part of our lives, those are all really special. Agnews is going to be missed. We did some good things, and we changed a lot of things and made them better. I'm proud of the time that I spent at Agnews, and I'm happy for who I became as a result of Agnews. So I hope that when you see this tape and you hear the stories about Agnews, you realize it was just people working with people and that there was a lot of love and caring that was involved.
I'm Pam Meeker. At Agnews, I was assistant to the director for Carrie Pecunier and director of quality assurance for the time I was here. This is a bittersweet day for me. I've spent 40 years of service with the Department of Developmental Services, and Agnews is one of my favorite places to be. This cemetery here was one of the first things that Lois Sissel took me to on my very first day at Agnews. At that time we had ice plant up to my knees and we had to walk through a little dirt path to get here, but it's an amazing thing to see how it's preserved and its history will lead on and be on in the world today. The museum is fabulous. My lifetime with this department has given me lifelong friends, incredible service to clients that we've seen go from very little skill to incredible skill and independence. We're very, very proud of the department and all of the staff, families, and clients who were part of Agnews history. Best of luck, good wishes, and you will very much be missed in this community.
My name's Lois Sissel, and I worked at Agnews for approximately 20 years, from 1975 until late 94. And I started out as a volunteer, and I ran it was a day camp program for some of the clients at the time, and it turned out to be a nice experience for all of them. But I was only a part-time person. I thought this was just a little summer job. And then lo and behold, by 1976, I became a real staff person. And then I worked in a variety of areas. I was a recreation therapist and worked with clients primarily on the West Campus. And we did lots of different kinds of activities, and probably our most favorite activity was having talent shows. We really liked doing that. And but we also had other important work to do, and that was trying to help people get to a point where they could move out and live in a different living situation than in Agnews. And that was a real struggle in those early years. But by the mid-'80s or so, more and more people started to move out, and that was good for them. And it was good for us too, because it showed that, you know, we were making a difference in their lives. Working for the state and working at the Developmental Center was certainly a wonderful opportunity, and I have many, many fond memories of my time here, and especially with many of the consumers that I worked with.
Hello, my name is David Loberg. I was the director of Agnews from 1976 through 1978, at which time I went to Sacramento to be the director of the Department of Developmental Services, being appointed by Governor Jerry Brown. Agnews had a special place for me and my family. We came from Napa, where I had been a program director, and we left my boyhood home, really. My family had lived in Napa for many years, and I appreciated working and living in that same community. But when Agnews became my opportunity, I took it. And partly because it was, at the time, having some problems, and they were recognized as licensing problems and so forth that needed work, and I saw that as a challenge. And I think with the success of the rest of the staff, we overcame those challenges and got the licensing problems dealt with. Agnews at the time was 2 different campuses. We had about 300 or 400 folks on the West Campus and about 600 or so on the East Campus. And at the time, we lived on the West Campus in what they called the old Executive Mansion. It was really quite a home, and it remains there today as part of the agreement with the sale of the property to Sun Microsystems. They agreed that they would keep the Executive Mansion, the auditorium, and the clock tower intact, and they've done that. My family was young at Agnews. I have 2 children, Michael and Abby, and they went to school. Abby started kindergarten here, and my son Michael was a 2nd grader at the school nearby. It was not an easy change for us, but they handled that quite well. If they had been older, it might have been different, but we came to Agnews and we were warmly received, and I thought from the very beginning that I would enjoy it, and that was true. I knew many of my colleagues from having worked with them in statewide functions. When I was a program director at Napa, I was also engaged in statewide issues and problems and developing policies and so forth. So several of my colleagues were here already, and I appreciated the opportunity to work closely with them. I enjoyed that part of my job very much, but while I was there, I would be given proposals for closing Agnews. At one time, a former mayor of San Jose, as well as a very wealthy industrial park owner here in the valley, came up with a proposal that they would like to buy Agnews and completely replace all the facilities and services in the community. And that had to be kind of tempting, but when I talked to Governor Brown about it, I had occasion just to see him casually, and he listened to the proposal and said, Agnews stays green. And in fact, that was about 1980, and here we are, 29 years later. Agnews is green, but it is surrounded by industrial buildings, primarily Silicon Valley industries. And the future is very likely to be Agnews will ultimately be covered up with those kinds of buildings. And this museum, very nice museum that has been developed for Agnews, to remember Agnews, will be the last memory of this wonderful historic facility.